Hey guys, this is Dave with CoLiving Operations. I'm joined today by my good friend and partner, Rawn Wilson. Say hi, Ron.
Hello.
I was hoping he was going to say hi, Ron, but that's okay. We're going to talk today about co-living arbitrage. Now, Ron owns one property or two properties. One, right? It's what you own yourself in co-living.
Two right now.
You have two properties that you own in co-living, and then the rest of your portfolio of another, what is it, 12, 13 homes?
17.
17. Okay, he's grown more than I understood last time. Are all arbitrage units. All right. Now, Ron, what is co-living arbitrage? How does that work?
Well, arbitrage for co-living is just like all the other arbitrage models that people have been doing for Airbnb or rentals, whatever it is. In layman's terms, it's basically renting someone else's property and then subleasing it out for a higher rent and then taking the cash flow from that.
Fantastic. So it's just typical arbitrage. You see that in the Airbnb markets. You see that pretty much all over the country where someone owns an asset, but they don't want to have to manage it themselves, right?
Correct.
What is particular about co-living arbitrage? It's not exactly the same. I mean, you're going in there, you're not renting it out as it exists today, right? Are there any tweaks that you have compared to what someone else in the space might be doing?
Oh yeah, as you stated in a lot of your other posts, there's a room count that's very specific to where profitability in the co-living market become attainable. In our market, we've talked about 6 rooms. So at 6 rooms, you're probably like at a break even to a little bit of profitability. Moving into the 8 to 10 room realm is where your profitability is going to rise when you account for vacancy and a couple other factors. You're not going to find a single family house with 8 to 10 bedrooms. So
right.
finding the rental arbitrage is finding that model, not only where the owner is going to let you go in there, but he's also going to let you do some kind of rehab with adding bedrooms or adding bathrooms and creating what you need to create the profitability. So taking a 5 or even a 4-bedroom house and turning it into an 8 or a 10.
Why would an owner let you go into his property and change it, right? You're talking about converting their living room into more bedrooms or other spaces. We usually talk about in a co-living property. I can see doing that for something that I own. I'm very particular about that. We design them right. But the mindset of an owner that's used to renting it out to others, and now you're showing up and you're telling them, hey, I want your property, but I'm going to add more bedrooms. Like, why are they doing that?
Well, let's take a step back from that. So first of all, it's trying to find these properties, right? And when you're finding these properties, you're going to talk to 1 of 3 people. You're talking to the owner themselves. You're going to talk to a leasing agent because you find it on the MLS or HAR or wherever you found the property. Or you're going to talk into a property management company that has it out there. Each one of those 3 people have a different reason for listing the property. The owner, they want rent. The property management or the leasing agent want their commission for renting it out. So creating the letters and the initial communication with any of these people to pique their interest, even get inside this house first. And I call it like a slow roll method to get to where you're saying, like, how can you convince the owner of this property to allow them to make the changes that you want? So you have to use terms that everybody knows. If you kind of say, I want to arbitrage your house and I want to sublease it, they probably have no idea what any of that means. But if you're saying, I want to rent your house on a corporate lease, most of the people that rent houses know exactly what that means. And what that immediately goes to them is a long-term and higher rents and taken care of better. So that's one of the first things I start out with. Are you interested in a corporate lease, like a 3 to 4 year lease, where I can sublease to my employees or to my members within the portfolio? And once you get past that stage, you're like, yeah, that sounds great. And that's when you can start the initial evaluation of the house. It's kind of like getting your offer accepted on a single family house, right? You're under option, you get to go in, you get to take a look. That's where we can go in and we actually do a true analysis like we do. You say, what can we change? What will we have to change as far as bathroom count, bedroom count, everything else? And that's where we can go back to the owner and talk to them more about, okay, to do this, I would like to change these specific things, whether it's a family room into a bedroom, an office into a bedroom. Oh, and by the way, you have a perfect spot here for a fourth bathroom. And I will do this for you. And then you talk about for your house, this is going to add value by this, this, this. And it's still, you still have a dining space, you still have a living space, you have all this other stuff. And I do my construction techniques in a way that I can revert this back to the original state at the end of my lease, if that's what you wish.
Okay. What is the reaction been to some clients or some homeowners when you're like, I want to go in and add a bathroom at my expense for you? They're like, holy cow, or have they been a bit reticent? Like, what is that response been?
The bathrooms are like, well, like most of it's like, oh, I've been wanting another bathroom. I think it's mostly the bedroom stuff. You're like, I want to put a wall where your living room is.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, where you get the most pushback. They have concerns. We've been denied a couple of times on some of the owners. Some of them just want more explanation, where they want to come walk the property with you. You get some that are just open to the concept because they just really want to rent the property out for a 4-year lease.
Right.
So it's like any other investment or any other real estate strategy. You have to go out there and hit the market hard. You take the hits with the nose, but eventually you'll break into the yeses, and you start kind of perfecting your sales technique on getting into the house.
All right. Would you say that this would work pretty much anywhere? Because when we talk to people all over the country, people are like reticent. Or, is this a strategy that somebody new should be getting into? I mean, you're taking a chance with somebody else's home, right? With this, there's one case that could be made for arbitrage is great for a newbie because you don't need to save up for the down payment and everything. On the other hand, you're experimenting with somebody else's home, right? What are your thoughts around that? I mean, you're a fairly experienced investor before some extremely handsome gentleman introduced you to CoLiving in the first place. But what do you think? How do you think that should apply? Just a general audience.
First of all, I think you have to ask yourself, why do I want to do rental arbitrage? I don't know if it's something you should tackle if you've never done co-living at all, because you have to know, number one, your market. Like, I'm in the Houston market. I've had houses here, single family, commercial. Even my first house that was on co-living, I owned, and I had experience. I know what room rates are. I know how many rooms we need to be profitable. So talking or trying to relate to other markets, a newer person can definitely come do it, but they need to do their research. They need to know exactly, not what people are saying they think they can get room rates for, but what are room rates really going for in their market? Because if you can't tackle the room rate versus how many rooms you can get, how much you're going to spend on the house, then you won't be successful. So if you do all of your research and have all your ducks in a row, you can definitely move into it, because we do this. Why? It's a lot less capital invested up front. You can expand your portfolio a lot faster. Right. There's a lot less risk involved.
How long? 7 to 7.
I don't pay insurance. I don't pay taxes on these houses.
Right.
I just pay a lease. And by the way, my lease payment is fully tax deductible as part of my business. I am basically a leasing, like if you're renting out an office space. So instead of just being you own this house and you can write off your mortgage interest, I can write off the entire lease payment.
So you don't get the depreciation or the appreciation of it. You are getting the cash flow, and you are getting tax benefit of the write-off there.
That is correct.
So you have been able to grow extremely fast. I mean, 2 years ago, you had what, 1 or 2 properties?
1.
All right, and now here you are with 2 properties that you own and 17 that you're arbitraging 2 years later.
That is correct.
You did not have to shell out 20 or 20% down payments for these.
Plus the conversion, plus everything else. Yes.
That's fantastic. It's a great way to scale fast once you understand where you need to be, right? So you're saying have the education, know what you're doing, be confident in your underwriting. You can grow fast so long as you just, you have the education needed to not mess it up, right?
Yeah, that's great.
right? Because if you mess this up, it's a pretty big mess up, right? You're within your leases, like what are some elements of your lease that you do to get yourself the permission to do this? Within your client, because the standard lease certainly wouldn't cover adding walls or certainly not a whole bathroom structure. I mean, as a landlord with a single family home, you tend to not want someone to even paint the wall, right? But here you're getting permission to go in there, put up walls, put in bathrooms. How are you doing that?
Yeah, definitely our lease has evolved over time. And it's always full transparency in my eyes. You always want the owners to know exactly what you're doing and getting it in writing so that, and so we actually have an amendment, a standard amendment to most of our leases that we give to the property management company or the owner or whoever's handling the leases. Of course, the biggest thing is I want to be able to do changes to your house. And the verbiage for that is either simple as that. I want to be able to make the changes to your house, or I want to be able to make the changes to the house with your approval. Obviously, we like to leave off the with your approval because when you're building these houses, things change really fast and it's hard to get their approval. The second part is I want to be able to sublease this house when it's all done so that you know that even though I am signing the lease, I am not the one living in this house.
Okay.
And then depending on your model, we like to recuperate however much money we put into the house, that we recuperate it in the first 18 months of the lease. So if we do a 4-year lease, the last 2.5 years is all cash flow. So when we look at that model, we don't, usually in a standard lease, they have the right to sell with a 30-day notice.
Right.
And so we don't want that. So
you want someone else coming in, and then, I mean, in Texas, at least, if you have a lease, say a year, 2, 4 years, even if the owner changes hands, they can't kick you out as long as you have that lease and all the amendment is in place. What is your concern with somebody selling the home while you're in there, if they're tied to the lease?
There's so many different ways that it could go down, but of course the worst case scenario is they sell the home, they give you a 30-day notice, your lease is invalid, and they kick you out, and you've lost the money that you've invested in the house. We try to stay under $20,000 investment in the house, but sometimes we're upward of 25, depending on what we're doing. Okay. But with our model, like I said, we've always tried to recoup it fairly quickly.
How are you doing that with $25,000? I mean, I've seen some of the homes. You've added some of your homes vanities to every bedroom, put up multiple walls, added entire bathrooms. I mean, how are you keeping something with that large a rehab under 25 grand? I think I know the answer. The answer probably is, well, I own the construction company.
CLHR Construction. So we have the vendors and we have the work crews, and we've probably transformed over 25 pad splits for investors, and so we have the experience of our build processes, so we can get it done pretty quickly.
Okay, so if I'm somebody that is not a contractor, I don't have my own contracting business. It's just because this is going to come down to the numbers, right? I might not be able to do as much to the home as you are. So my buy box might look different than yours. When you're willing to put in another bathroom, I might need to be renting a home that's already got 3 full baths or something, because I'm not going to afford the price of putting another one because I don't get the discounts that you do. Right.
And remember, I talked about the markets are important. So I know what works here in Houston, but I've been tracking a lot of the forum posts. And there are people out there arbitraging, finding a 5 or 6 bedroom house, arbitraging and making money as is. That's something that can be done, but it's all about the market. They probably have higher room rates and less lease or whatever you can negotiate. But definitely the numbers are where it's at. And it's as an investor, everything's a reverse math. So you know that you want to make X amount of money profit.
Right.
And so you know what your room rates are, and you know what your lease payments are. And then so you kind of subtract all that, and you want an 18-month recoup. You can get a number of, I know that I can put X amount of dollars into this house and be where I want to be. And everything from there is a negotiation. So kind of knowing your numbers and moving into it smartly, you can go to a contractor and go, I want to add a bathroom, put up these walls, get the estimate, and if it's within that range, then you're fine. Never let the contractor know, I've got $20,000 to spend on this project, because guess what it's going to cost, right?
Yeah.
So you just say, hey, I have a budget and this is what I want to do. What can you do it for? And then you can negotiate from where your numbers need to be.
Okay. I'm just thinking back, you and I, have walked properties before you decided to sign up with them, trying to figure out floor plan layouts. Some houses we've rejected, even though the guy was willing to give you the house for almost next to nothing. He just really wanted to have you in there because he values you as a tenant. And you told him flat out, no, I can't. This won't work. Now, part of it was tied to your numbers, right?
It was.
But I think some other elements that we saw were just bad flow, right? You could get to 8 bedrooms, but it'd be a terrible feeling house. What criteria are you using to evaluate the actual property itself? Or when we think about acquisition, much the same thing. We've got the 3 pillars. We've got site. So what are some considerations about the area that you have, the property itself, and then the tenant base, like when you're looking at the properties? So starting off with site, what are some considerations of the location that you're looking for?
Well, working out of Texas, everything is so far apart from each other. Most people have cars. One of my biggest thing on site planning and looking at a property is parking.
Okay.
I shoot somewhere between 60 and 70%. So using a 10-bedroom house, I want 6 to 7 parking spots. Being an arbitrage and
site on the land, or do you consider like street parking? Like how do you define parking?
So obviously I try to get everything on site. I've turned yards into parking lots. I try to stay out of HOAs and areas where I can gravel the parking lots and make a lot of parking. I'll do on-street parking if the cars are directly in front of the house involved. I don't like to plan for any parking across the street or down the way. I don't want to get neighbors involved and make them mad. A really good way is actually go to that property in the evening, 7, 8 o'clock at night when people are home, see where people are parking organically, see what's open, because what might look like way open parking for 10 cars at 1 o'clock in the afternoon might be completely packed in the evening. And you bring 10 more cars into that, you're just going to cause issues. So that's one of the biggest things this site is parking, and the second is transportation. So for the people that don't have cars, we want to have bus stops, train stations, things like that they can get to fairly quickly by walking or by bicycle. And luckily, Houston, being a fairly large metro, has a lot of those around in the central area of the city where we focus.
Okay. So then we're talking about the property itself. So besides site, where you highlighted parking and being close to the metro, now we're looking at the property. When you're walking the property, anything specific you're looking for? If you get, say, a 4-bed, 1-bath, right? If you could fit more beds in there, at some point, is just not worth your time or the expense to try to modify something like that, or other considerations about the property itself.
Right. So a lot of that just comes back to the numbers. So I love to evaluate properties, and I know you did too. It's kind of fun. And so we like walking the property, doing the floor plan layout, and kind of chopping it up and say, this is what will work. I need a 3-to-1 bathroom count. So 1 bathroom for every 3 bedrooms. And what can we do to make this happen? And that's when you go back to the owner. And usually when I walk the owner, I'm like, how much do you want for this property? And they give you a number. So you have that line. I want $2,000 a month. So you know that number. So when I go back and compute, I'm like, yeah, you're asking for $2,000 a month, but I need to add a bathroom and update the HVAC infrastructure because your ducts are old or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then that's your bag for negotiation. I have some owners where I'm like, listen, you need a new bath. This is an older house. You got 1 bathroom for 4 bedrooms. You need one anyway. How about you pay for the bathroom? I'll manage it. I'll bring it in. It'll cost you half the amount that it would have cost you from a contractor to bring them in. And then give me 2 free months of rent while I finish it up. And so I'm like, yeah, that sounds great.
Because they're getting increased value to the home right away. You're spending your time and contracting on it. So they see that as a great benefit.
Yep. All works out.
Okay.
And sometimes it falls in between there. Sometimes I say, well, I'll give you the months or I'll give you the bathroom, and you kind of work the numbers. Okay. Then how about I charge me $1,900 a month for the first year and then bring it back up to $2,000 for the next year. Like there's so many negotiation tools involved with this. You just kind of figure out what that middle ground is.
All right. So that site, that's the property itself. I mean, while we're on the property, like what's the largest, like not dollar value, but sheer amount of work that you've done to one of these properties? Have you taken something from a complete shit box and like made it pristine? Or have you always sort of started with something that's relatively okay, and just added things? Like, I mean, I'm imagining a house where the wallpaper's crumbling off the wall and you're going in there and you're scraping it, you're repainting the walls, you're redoing the ceiling, like you're doing a full flip type thing to the view to the property. I do know that you have converted some garages on your dime.
Yes.
In order to get them done, right? So that's quite a good to have you live there. Like, what's the most that you've done? Because this is crazy to think that someone's willing to put $20,000, $25,000 into someone else's home.
Yeah, we're actually working on one right now. The property was a previous Section 8 house that wasn't very well taken care of. In fact, the person that had it was re-renting it or subleasing it kind of outside where they weren't supposed to, where they were putting 2 and 3 people in a room. And it was already, I think, a 6-bedroom, somewhat converted room. It wasn't done well. The electrical's horrible. The plumbing's horrible. The walls are horrible. The floor is horrible. It had carpet. They decided to use that as the bathroom instead of the rest of the house. And so it was bad. It was stinky. But walking in with the owner that realized that they were going to have to put $15,000 to $20,000 into this house anyway to bring it back into a rentable condition. I think we negotiated 3 months of rent for free, $15,000 from them as an injection into the house where we do the work for them. So it wasn't a loan. It was just money towards the house. And then a reduced rent for the first year.
Okay.
That was complete flooring. We converted that to an 11-bedroom, added 2 bathrooms, and converted a garage. So from ripping out all the old carpet, all new tile work or laminate, walls, paint, everything, ceilings, new fixtures, fans, 11 fans, lighting everywhere, light switches, plugs, outlets, new water heater. I mean, we did a heavy lift on that house. It was like doing a flip for somebody, but at the end of this, the house is going to be amazing.
So at the end, we've said we're talking about the end of this. Okay, what does an exit look like, right? So you're signing these multi-year leases, like 2, 3, 4-year long leases, right?
Right.
We'll come back to the lease again a little bit and what your clause looks like. But at the end of that, I don't think you've hit the end of that at all. What you've hit the end of it once.
Right.
What does that look like? Are they taking the properties back as is? Are they so happy with the way it is? Is the expectation that they might request that you take that 11-bedroom house back to something that's comparable to the market? How does that look like?
Well, at the beginning of this, I talked about transparency and honesty. And so I'm a very honest person. And so when I think something's askew, I'm very upfront. And so I've asked these owners, like, listen, I want to continue leasing this house beyond this this first initial lease is for me to prove my worth. And then hopefully you can continue to do this. If you're letting me in here to improve this and sell it or do other marketing, please let me know so I can plan accordingly. I understand it's a business. And so we have these conversations. Hopefully what they tell me is accurate and they stick to it, but they're all so far like, we want you to continue. The only one else
or make you think they're going to take it back from you so they can run it themselves. Right.
Yeah. It's one of those things. You don't let them too much. I always invite owners back to the house after the conversion to show them what we've done.
Right.
And another benefit I'll throw in there too right now is we do all the maintenance on the house. Minus the big, but roofing, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, most of that big stuff, we'll let them get involved and make the repairs. But like toilet clogs and sink clogs and busted faucets, light bulbs, busted fixtures, we just go in there and take care of it as part of our thing. We never call the owners. So from the previous leases that these owners have had with other people, if they've been a long-term landlord versus us, they're very hands-off. They don't have to do much. And so that's another benefit of what we do. I've only turned back one house so far. It was the end of a 2-year lease. and they're asking for more money. And this house was already tight. It was kind of an experiment on a smaller 4-bedroom house.
Yep.
And so when they were trying to raise rents, the profit margin shrunk. And he went in, evaluated the house, and just said, "Yep, put it back to where it was. You can leave the driveway how you did it." And we just picked down a couple walls, took out some doors, took off some numbers. It was a pretty easy process because our construction techniques up front is we try to do little harm. We don't drive nails in the flooring. We do compression fit walls. So mostly it's just drywall work and paint.
So you mentioned something there. What is a compression fit wall, and why doesn't that like damage the floor, requiring you to like retile? Because that would be expensive, right? You had a tile floor. Now you got to retile it. That's a whole pain. But you're not having to do that, right? Like your walls. How does that work?
Basically, you're just getting the 2x4s, and you're putting the bottom plate and the top plate in place and held in by like a jack stud. And then you cut your 2x4s like 1/8 of an inch long as you place your 16 on centers studs along the wall. So the wall's being held to the floor and the ceiling by compression, by pressure. And you can actually push on it, pull on it, and it's not going anywhere. People are like, what if someone pushes into the wall or they lean on it? It's a very stable wall, and it stays. We never had any issues with them.
I remember one time you and I were talking about it, and you were telling me that you were blue taping along the floor where the wall was going to go, and then you would construction glue the 2x4 to the blue tape, not to the floor itself, so it was held there. Are you still doing that, or has your process changed so you're not doing like that part?
We don't use anything like liquid nails or strong glue, because we find sometimes that'll seep through the blue tape. But even if you use some kind of mastic, even like a silicone caulk or something where it's just going to keep it where it's just kind of stuck there, but can be scraped up easily, especially when the blue tape is. Because at the beginning, it's all an experiment. You never know what's going to happen after 4 years of this stuff being squished against blue tape on top of linoleum and tile. If it's tile, then we're a lot easier than a nice wood floor. You're trying not to damage. But the last house we came apart, we had it back in play in 2 days, and it looked great. In fact, we got on that house, we had a security deposit, and we got 100% back of our security deposit.
That's awesome. Okay. On the security deposits, I know I had an arbitrage. The way I secured that was I offered double security deposit, right? That was a negotiation tactic. Like, I was new to it. I've already done co-living, but they were like, "Oh, well, I don't know. How long are you going to be around?" I was like, "Listen, we'll give you double security deposit. And if I don't take the house apart at the end, like I'm supposed to, you got $4,000 sitting there. It's going to cost you a lot less than that to knock the wall down, fix it up. So you're going to end up making some money off of that."
Right.
Deal the deal there, certainly for a lot less than a down payment would be to get it in. And some people have negotiated, after the first year, you're happy to be, I get that second part of the security deposit back. You still have part. So you can negotiate all along the lines with your cash there, right? That's fantastic.
And if you actually so you're saying security deposits and this and that, put numbers to that and say it out loud to an owner. Hey, I want to rent your house. You're asking $2,000 a month. I'm going to give you the first month's and last month's rent up front. Mm-hmm. And your security deposit's $2,000. So I'm going to give you $6,000 moving to this house. And they're like, wow, that sounds pretty good, but man, I don't know if you're going to take down these walls and you're going to damage my thing. You're like, okay, listen, here's what I'll do for you, because I know you're concerned about this. If I don't do it, what if I double your security deposit? So just like you said, at the end of this, I can't do it. You got $4,000 to correct this. So I'm going to give you $8,000 cash right now to move into your house.
Right. How do you as an owner not there? And now you layer into it, because let's go back on to all the benefits of an owner gets, right? Now you're saying, hey, I'm also, possibly going to add a bathroom. I've just now increased the value of your home by $10,000, $12,000 based on what the appraisers are going to say, right? Especially if you had a 4-bed, 1-bath, or a 4-bed, 2-bed, 1.5, 2-bath, right? You're adding all that value to the property there on probably your dime, or at least your labor coming out of it.
Correct.
You're saying, I'm going to take this house for a minimum of 2 to 3 years. You don't need to worry about this property being leased out, right? you're a property manager. You own better rooms with me. You're managing all these properties yourself. They don't need a property manager. So if they've been factoring in a 10% property management fee, are you going through that discussion with them? Hey, you don't need a property manager. I'm here. I do this anyway. So you don't need to worry about it? Or is that just something you haven't had to bring up yet?
So in our lease, I'll tell them too, depending on how you're feeling the situation, I'll start low with like a $300 limit. Hey, any maintenance that pops up, I'm mowing your lawn. I'm going to provide pest control. I'm going to provide housekeeping every twice a month. And I'll send you pictures of all that if you want. Most of them don't want it. And I will fix anything up to $300. I've moved up to $500 in some properties or whatever else. They're like, wait a minute, you're going to mow my lawn. You're going to take care of pest control. You're going to clean my house with a paid service. And you're going to fix everything around $300 or $500. And you're giving me $8,000 to move in.
Right.
But I'm still concerned about the family.
But I'm still concerned about the wall in the dining room, right?
But that's where the experience eventually comes in. After we've done this a couple of times and we've got the layouts and the Matterports and everything else, I'm like, well, if you have time, I can take you to another property we just finished, or I can show you right here on my iPad, and we'll walk them through an entire property, what a finished product looks like, fully furnished and everything else. And then, of course, we invite them back at the end. Every so often, like we were lucky enough, you find somebody that owns multiple properties and they're calling you like, hey, I've got another one. Oh, can you come look at it? I don't want these renters in here anymore. Please take my property. Please take my property. And so you find those types of relationships and you continue to build off it. And it's been great.
All right. So we've been talking now there is no timer built into this. This isn't what we've been talking for. I'm looking around like, we've talked for a while. Are there any other, questions you wanted to be asked during this discussion? I know you took some notes here.
Yeah. We kind of talked about the tax benefits of why people do arbitrage.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest things just to reiterate, the end result of why we do this is the cash flow, right?
Your cash flow, like you're not paying as much for insurance. You don't have to worry about the taxes going up or anything because you're locking that in regardless, right? If the taxes go up on the owner next year, well, you've got a 3-year lease at $2,000 unless they built in an escalation clause, right? So you don't need to worry about anything for quite a while, right?
Or what if a natural disaster happens? Flood, fire, famine, whatever, and the house just shuts down or ceases to exist. The lease is gone and you walk away.
You have nothing to worry about. You're saying like the big things, right? The foundation, the roof, the hot water tank exploding, anything over your $300 or $500 limit, you're not having to worry about. So you're not sitting there needing to have your rainy day fund for the $7,000 roof. Well, are you putting anything in your lease that requires the owner to be responsive, like a time frame? Or are you just assuming, hey, if they don't get that roof up, I'm withholding lease or something like, because you're not taking care of, but I understand co-living, you got 7, 8 tenants in there. You want to make sure that stuff's happening, right? I know you've had some plumbing issues in the past, right?
Yes.
And I think from my understanding, they've been pretty responsive, but what would your thought process be if, hey, the plumbing's not working. I got 8 people in this home. When are you getting a plumber over? Are you going to just bite the bullet, suck it up, get that taken care of to save your cash flow? Or are you going to just keep hounding the homeowner or something? Or is that considered?
It depends on the situation. So we have had some pretty severe plumbing issues with collapsed sewer lines and whatnot. And most of the time the owners are fairly responsive, even though the bills are $10,000 to $12,000 in some of these sewer line replacements, especially under slab. But you got to figure out why their pushback is or why they're taking time. Is it money? Is it timing? What is it? So being that we are already a general contractor and have a construction company, we try to offer them our services at a discounted price. So it's like, okay, listen, I've given you, here's 3 estimates, or you've got your own estimates to make this repair. And you see what that is. I can do it for this. And then we could either do a pay over time or a discounted So there's no money out of their pocket, or it's negotiated into the rents or however it is. I've had them come in, and sometimes I've even split costs. I've had a bathtub where the enamel was popping, and they're like, they want to come in and just paint it with some silly paint. I'm like, I'll tell you what, give me that money that you would have paid to paint it. I'll put in some additional funds and I'll just replace it. And so, they give me 400, I put 400 in, and then we just go in and replace the whole thing. Because what are you looking at the end of the day is tenant satisfaction, their happiness, their comfort, and their safety. So as long as you address all those, you're going to get longer duration stays. So the quicker you fix it and the better you fix it, the better tenants you have and the longer they stay, and it all adds to the bottom line.
Treating your tenants well, even though they're just co-living people, as some would say, not me, but our people, though, they consider, hey, if you're co-living, you're not, I don't want to say less than, but they're like, oh, they're just co-living people. You don't need to give them a new shower or whatever. But if you treat them well, you're going to see better performance.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. It's looking through my last list of questions here. We talked a lot about how you're finding a property. We've talked a lot about the work that you're doing. I mean, it really seems that your killer attribute here is your construction company. The fact that you have that opens up a lot more deals for you. It allows you to handle problems that come your way. You can then roll all that into your rehab. Not your rehab, but your rents. You can negotiate rents based on things because you're able to do that. So that is fantastic. If someone's looking and they want to be doing arbitrage, or they have a property that they want to rent out and they'd be willing to talk to you, how should someone get a hold of you?
The easiest ways are construction company sales at clhrconstruction.com. They can reach out to us. And that's one of our big things that we actually try to pitch is helping either owners of single family rentals convert their house to a co-living, and they keep it and they manage it into co-living. Or if they want to arbitrage something that they already have, they just don't want to deal with it anymore. They want it more hands-off and passive. We all know that real estate's not a passive investment. It takes a lot to become passive. And in the arbitrage model that we follow, we actually try to make it as passive for the owner. I've got a house that I'm in my third year of arbitrage on it. And I think the only time I've talked to the owner was when I took a picture. I retiled their whole shower for them in year 2.
Mm-hmm.
Sent them a picture like, hey, I just retiled your shower. Congratulations. Like, oh, thank you. And then I think I talked to him.
Would you get the change to your landlord's home? You get followed up with you're not allowed to touch it. It's a violation of lease. How dare you repaint the cabinetry? But your guy was like, yeah, I got a brand new shower done.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. All right. So the last segment of the YouTube, or what do we call this, of this interview?
Okay.
Podcast. Just words, isn't it? Anyway, the YouTube channel of CoLiving Operations is, fight, right? Still working on the name. I like fight. But the difference between our businesses comes down to variance from a standard, right? Standardization of co-living is you have a property, you have rooms, you rent out the rooms to individuals while you take care of the home overall. Within that, there's a lot of nuance. Some people go more boutique-y. Others go, as I recommend, more operationally focused, right? Treat your home, with quality products, with standardized elements for that. But we have some variance. While you and I agree in a lot of ways, I think it comes down to a difference in style versus, speed of setup. There, we both still go for very rigorous elements. Right. I do consider style. I think it's just how we weight those two, right? I still consider style. You still consider speed, but I think you consider maybe style a bit more. Would you say?
Style and functionality comes into a little bit of it. I know where you're going with this, so let's go.
All right, fantastic. So let's start off with, the beds, right? So I recommend you've seen the posts out there. I've got this Amazon Basics bed. Zynus has a version of it, but the Amazon Basics is actually a bit easier to put together. The thing takes less than 2 minutes to come together,
Yeah,
right?
bed frames, yep.
Bed frame. There's no Allen wrench involved. It looks a lot like a camp cot. It comes in, you unfold it, you unfold the legs, they click into place. You got a twin is one of them, but the ones I use are full or queens. There's two pieces that then screw together, right? Whole thing together under 2 minutes. I've got over 200 of them in service, right? And they've never broken. Unlike some of my client beds that are wood frame,
Right.
wood slats. You've seen them. You've had to replace some with me, right? When they break, it's a huge headache. And again, there's a whole post on the challenge with beds. You get the wrong bed, right? So you got to go in. You have to coordinate with a tenant. You have to remove it. It's a whole pan. It's a big mess. But the crucial difference is my beds don't have headboards. All right. And yours do. Yours also take longer to put together.
Yes.
Can you explain a little bit more about your selected bed and why you select that? Even though it's going to take you a lot more time. And it is you and your partner in the endeavor. Sometimes you have some handymen with you, but it's your time. Much more than 2 minutes per bed that's being spent on these.
About 30 minutes per bed.
Right. So why would you spend 15 times as much time per bed? I can get all the beds put together.
So when we first met and you told me about all this co-living stuff, obviously I was like, yeah, I called you a liar.
Yeah, you called me a dirty liar. You told me
you're a liar. Get out of my meeting. This is horrible.
I was there. You yelled at me. You said, "You go away. We don't let you do dirty liars."
I had my first property within 3 months up and running, and I used those beds, the Amazon Basic breakouts, right? And then I was like, what mattresses do I use? Because we'll lead into mattresses next. Yep. You're like, Amazon, or not Amazon. You said pad split that we're using has 8-inch mattress. I was like, 8-inch mattress it is. Well, so I got those. And then since then, I've done 16 other properties. I went back to that. I visit that property all the time, the original property. And I was just there the other day and I was like, these beds look like crap. Oh. But that's style. That's the first one, style, right? You want a tenant to walk into a room and like, this is a nice room. I like it here. I'm going to stay here, right? The second part, I think that's just deep down in me, is you said something about Army cot. I retired from the Army after 33 years. So anything cottage, like just like, it makes me cringe. I was like, I don't want anyone sleeping on a cot. You're going to have a bed and you're going to love it. And then, of course, the 8-inch mattresses had to go immediately just because they're so thin. And so I went from 8 to the top to 12. I think you said you're doing 10s.
We standardize around the 10-inch the 10-inch green tea mattresses.
Yep.
They're fantastic. They got like a smaller box now. So
I've seen those. It's nice. Yeah, the transportation of those is a lot easier. I just do the standard 12-inch hybrid mattress that has the coil springs and with a gel top. But edge support is very important. You want to be able to sit on the edge of it and not sink down to the frame. But back to the frames. I like I don't like assembling. I like the assembled product of the headboard once. First, because the headboard will keep all the skin oils and hair and everything else off the wall. We've done a lot of refreshes in these rooms where there's just like a dirty streak across the back of these walls, right?
I've repainted some walls.
Yeah. And the pillows don't fall off. It makes the thing. And I get headboards that have an outlet in them, because a lot of these houses where you're trying to place the bed, there's not an outlet close. So you can use that extension cord to plug in. You can plug in your lamp. You can plug in. I know you do end tables with the outlet.
Yep.
My end tables do not.
End table or the lamp itself, I have an outlet in.
Yeah, my lamps have outlets also in them. So it's the configuration thing. It gives me more versatility.
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 Versatility. Yes, versatility.
Versatility.
Yeah.
We're talking about beds, right?
We're true.
So versatility within these rooms, outlet configuration, bed configuration. I've really leaned closer to a bed right now where the headboard has a small shelf on the back so they can put their phones or whatever else right behind them when they're due. So it's creature comforts. It's not just a bare bones room that they can have. And then with these beds that are assembled with the Allen wrench and the screws and stuff like that, we make sure that we torque them down to hopefully they haven't come loose. But the slats that connect the ends back and forth are about 3/4 of an inch thick all the way across. The beds you use, they're kind of like small little round bars. I don't like the sharp ends because we're not in there changing the mattress protectors all the time. The cleaning crew is. I know my cleaning crew is a smaller lady,
Right.
and that 12-inch mattress is at least 100 pounds. So when she's in there dragging that mattress off of the bed and changing it and pushing it back on, it slides really well on the larger rails.
That might be one of the reasons why Pat Split recommended the 8-inch in the first place. It's probably about half the weight, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
I do the 10 because it wasn't my initial reason. My initial reason was it's comfortable enough and I'm saving $20. But clearly less weight, easier for the changing of it, I would think. Plus the 10-inch fits in the mattress cover easier, slips on better, where your 12-inch, like you have to snug that thing in there and it looks like a fat man bikini.
I have one 8-inch mattress left at that original house I told you about. Every time someone moves in, they're like, and if I have a vacant room, I'm like swapping mattresses. This 8-inch mattress has walked around to every single room over time. I eventually just got to replace it.
Replace it. If you're moving it around. All right. So on the beds, you'd rather spend more time on it to put it together because you see you believe you see value in the headboard, protecting the hair oil. You got the design of it. It looks like a better room within the photos and everything. So it might be helping you with your tenant acquisition, right? You see more function in it, right? Because you have the outlets tied to it. Okay. Right. My counter to that would be, if you ever go into a hotel, the headboard's not attached to the bed. Usually the headboard is screwed into the wall, right? And big reason for that is, and I see even with yours and with others, clearly that have headboards, not yours right away when you first install, but over time, the headboard is a point of weakness, I believe. There's more, you can shake it. It's weak. It can be a point of weakness. We've seen these break in some homes within that. Whereas if you had a headboard, I'm not against headboards per se. I'm against them being attached to the bed, and the time I see with the beds that you have that you put together. I'd recommend something as simple as screwing 2x6s into the wall and do like 2 of them or something into the wall, screw them right into the studs behind where the bed's going to go, and just try to mimic the way a hotel does it, or get headboards that are made to be screwed into the wall above it. You just you put the bed where you want it. Maybe put a 2x4 along the edge and then set the wood or the other headboard on top of that so it stays where you need to be. You screw it into place. That might solve what I see as a challenge with the instability of it, and still let me do that relatively quick. I think you can get a process down where you're able to screw in a headboard into the wall, still provide that protection of the wall itself from the head oils, have it look good, but not have what I see as the weak point there.
I agree with the instability comment. Yeah, if you don't, we've been through different variations of the bed frame that we do use. And I think we're at a pretty good model now where it's very stable. But I would challenge you to one of my next projects to do a side-by-side comparison. You get in one room and I get in another. I order my bed, you order your bed, and we start the assembly process, and then you go order your 2x6s and assemble your 2x6s and put them on a wall and push it against the wall. Who's going to be done first and who spent less? So I think price is going to be very comparable, either one. I think the time might even be comparable, might even be faster on the one side versus the other. Stability, I give in your corner. I do think, obviously putting it in there. but you've lost moving it around, which can be a great thing, you know, because sometimes I've gone into a room after a flip, a turn, and you're looking like, what is different here? And you realize that the furniture is completely like all swapped around. And it's like, I don't think this works. I don't know why they did this, but I don't think this works. Because one of the things we do in our rooms is we provide TVs.
Back where it goes or something. Sorry,
right.
Interrupt you.
We provide TVs. So we set up our bed for best viewing angles. So if they move the bed around and they've lost viewing angles, but I guess if you have a headboard attached to a wall and they move their bed, you can have these random headboard stuck to the bed. So maybe it's good. Maybe they won't move it. I don't know. Because we've looked around for headboard options also. But I don't want to have to create something. I just want to order it and it's there and I put it together.
Right.
Same thing on that timing. But so far so good. One of our checks on room turns is, of course, you know, shaking beds and desks and chairs to make sure nothing's loose.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, we have come into certain rooms and you find some bolts or screws on the ground. You're like, oh, you know, where do these go? It was off of a headboard or off of a bed rail, and it was the assembly process. If I didn't assemble it myself and my partner didn't, we hired someone. It's just they weren't using the right techniques. So you learn all the time.
Okay. The other part I would argue would be function, right? And this actually goes into something else that recently happened. Recently, a client of mine had the microwave go bad, right? And you and I kind of talked about this a little bit. It was one of the over-the-range microwaves that functions both as the venting hood over the range, as well as a microwave, right? And I have had these in some of my houses as well, but I've been replacing mine as the microwave goes bad. We actually had this in the last 2 months. I don't know if you've seen all of these, but like we've had like 2 or 3 microwaves go bad, and they were the venting hood microwaves. And I had our handyman go through and replace all of those with hoods, and then the countertop microwaves on the side. Reason being, you know, a venting microwave is much more expensive than a regular microwave I can just go pick up over at Walmart, right? Even the larger ones. So, you know, originally the handyman put like a little like 0.7 cubic foot microwave, and the tank about that, right? That was like $60. I went and I spent $130 on a 1.4 cubic foot microwave. Not as big as what was there, which was like 1.7, but still plenty big, right? That was $130, right? So $130 for that countertop one. Now, the venting microwave itself was like $220, $230 for that. And then the labor for the guy to come in and install it was another almost $150, right? So my logic is looking at function. I don't like to have one major element, one appliance, one major piece of furnishings accomplish more than one task in general, right? So like I wouldn't want outlets in the bed, because what if the outlet goes bad for some reason? Now it's still in the bed, and now am I fixing that outlet in the bed? Well, how am I going to do that? That's going to cost. If I think it's going to cost way too much to have that fixed. You leave it there. Now you're just dealing with complaints from tenants about, hey, the outlet doesn't work. Oh, it doesn't work, right? You're like, well, yes, we're sorry, it doesn't work. There's another outlet right here. We fix that some other way. Please disregard the outlets in the bed. It's just an initial expectation not met type thing, right? Same thing with the microwave, venting microwave. The microwave goes bad, the vent's still there. What are you doing? Are you just buying another microwave, putting on the countertop, and now there's these 2 microwaves in the house? Or are you spending the $500 in total for labor and materials to replace a venting microwave, right? My thought is just put in something that accomplishes one task, as well as that accomplishes one task, and that way you can replace it without having to worry about it, right? But you were a little understandably upset, like, why didn't you just give them the same thing that they already had, right? I think it comes down to function as well, right? Your thoughts there are on that. Like, you seem to be like, you're like, well, let one item be more efficient and do more than one thing. Right?
Well, first of all, for an arbitrage, all day long, I'll put something on the counter. because it's not my house. I'm not paying to replace your stuff unless I can get the owner to replace the over the range, which I have. But as far as aesthetics, counter space is very important in a lot of these houses. It's not a huge portion of it. So I'd like to keep things off the counter as possible. And if this is your house that you own, you also got to think about resale value. The over the range microwave is just a huge thing that they want to see when they come to the house. They don't want to see a countertop with a vent hood. I had a long conversation with partner Lewis about this, and it's unfortunately, I think a lot of things break in these houses is not because of the item itself; it's because of how they've been used. They put they try to heat up their pizza wrapped in aluminum foil, and it microwave exploded.
A metal bowl I found it.
And so because the honest answer is these microwaves are designed to last 8 to 10 years. So you shouldn't have to replace them, but they're going to break. But they're going to break a countertop microwave just like they do it over the range. So what you're actually looking at is the ease of replacement and cost of replacement once you've done the initial conversion. So if a year down the road, someone sticks the metal bowl on the countertop, you can go replace it for $130. Yeah. And you can call somebody and you don't have to explain it to them.
Right.
Versus doing it. So I see the ability in that, but I love I've got to a point where we can replace the range microwave pretty quickly and effectively. But I know I'm talking from my experience and my construction background. But for the average homeowner that's trying to either do co-living with their own house or through arbitrage, I do think that the single purpose items is the way to go. A stapler staples, that's what it's there for. That's all it does. So it's just easy to someone to go and fix it and replace it. We talked the same thing about refrigerators with ice makers and water makers.
Yep.
Do people complain that they don't work? They sure do. But guess what? They don't leak on my floor. They don't do anything else. They don't cause problems. So if you can initially buy a refrigerator without those in the door, no complaints.
Right. Yeah, that's my standard recommended fridge is very basic, right? Down to a point where I recommend refrigerators that don't even have the drawers for vegetables and stuff, because all you need is enough shelf space for someone to keep their stuff and tall enough for a gallon of milk.
Top load washer and dryers with a dial and a start button. That's it.
As simple as you can. If you can buy appliances from like the 1990s, that's what you should buy. They're probably still working. Meanwhile, it breaks like 3 months after you get it. To that end, for your arbitrages, are you saving money buying used appliances, or are you saving like your operational time and less likelihood of breaking and buying new for them?
We're buying used, but we find the right vendors that stand behind their products. So we've eliminated people that won't, and we've taken on a couple that will. And what I mean by that is, number one, delivery, setup, and removal have to be included in the price so it can happen while you're not there. And at least a 60, if not a 90-day warranty. And they have to have the ability to do the repair in-house. So not just someone that's selling out of the back of a pickup truck or in a storage facility. They just want to sell the product, have no means to repair. So the people we use can set up, deliver, remove the old one, and have the degrees to replace compressors and refrigerators, take apart a washer, dryer, and do full repairs. Refrigerator, defroster motor, all the stuff, fan motors that they need to do. It's all one-stop shop. So once you have, it takes a while to find that person. Once you do, the cost benefit saving is amazing.
I recommend going with Best Buy for all my appliances. I got the Control Tech thing, and it comes with free installation and removal. When I think they changed that program, but I always do new, because maybe it's just I just had bad luck.
Your question was for arbitrage.
Yeah, that's true.
You're asking me the houses I own. I'm buying new.
All right, yeah.
Right? And so the houses I own, new refrigerators, new washers, new dryers. It's for the longer warranty and just a peace of mind. But I still use the used guy to go do repairs on those if I ever can. But as far as my new appliances, no issues over the past 2.5 to 3 years. So,
yeah. All right. Fantastic. So Ron, again, what was your email address if anyone wants to reach out to you with arbitrage questions or to provide you something for arbitrage?
sales@clhrconstruction.com.
Fantastic. And I'm Dave, CoLiving Operations. That's Dave at CoLivingOperations.com. I am highly interested in gathering. If you have a property you want to arbitrage, if you love the idea of co-living itself, but you don't want to do it, but you'd be open to it. I'm talking to people all over the country. I'd be open to do arbitrages myself in different areas of the country. So go ahead, reach out. Again, Dave at CoLivingOperations.com. For anywhere other than Houston, I'm letting Ron, my good friend, have the Houston market for arbitragers. Sales at CLHRconstruction.com. Thank you very much, y'all.